Welcome everyone in Austin, Texas, and all over the world. This is Baron and the Doc here with the next episode of That Reminds Me Of, and we're talking today about the Danish film The Blue Orchid.
That's right, and this is the show where we talk about films and the films that we're reminded of while watching those films. It's spoiler heavy, so if you are worried about spoilers, take note. Otherwise, listen on.
The Blue Orchid, Baron. This was, for both of us, one of the top ones that we wanted to watch. I'm not sure what the reason was, but I think it's got something to do with it looked a little bit sexy, a little bit mysterious, and we do tend to go for that sort of stuff.
Yes, it did. It looked very sexy. I was excited. It had lots of naked, well, actually just had really one woman in lots of different scenes with lights on her. And different patterns, just doing naked, sexy moves. And we were both like, yep, that's going on the list 100%.
Yeah, so it was a non-negotiable. So we did it. We've now done it. And let's start with the synopsis. I reckon I'll just go into it. What do you think?
Please do, Doc.
Okay, well, The Blue Orchid, it involves a young photographer whose name's Casper. And he leads a pretty normal life for a photographer. He's got a cute girlfriend. And he's doing a lot of pretty boring photographer stuff.
Really boring photographer stuff.
Photographing flowers and food, shooting ads with like kids and animals. So everything that you aspire to do. But then he suddenly gets this mysterious job offer that involves him getting into a unmarked vehicle and going to some mysterious location with bad lighting and strange wallpaper. And he's given this little camera that looks like it's something futuristic from 1980. Yeah. And goes into the room where there's this model in various stages of undress, and he basically just has to film her. He doesn't know why. He doesn't know what what the special qualities of this camera are, and he does that by degrees. He gets infatuated by her, as an audience. I think we're meant to as well, and that improves his sex life with his cute girlfriend because he's always thinking about this model all the time. And eventually he can't stand it anymore and he has to have a crack at the model. He gets caught by the minder and thrown out, loses that awesome gig that he had. And is out on his ear. But then he can't stop thinking about her. He's getting all sort of morose and depressed. He's stuffed up his relationship for good, it seems. And he goes about trying to find her again, and in the process tries to work out like what's going on. And essentially he finds out that the camera is not just taking normal videos, but they become holograms, like, again, maybe 1970s style sci-fi holograms. Star Wars stuff.
Yeah.
And if you couple that with this drug, this little blue liquid, then it somehow makes you have this wonderful sexual, spiritual experience. And then it ends.
That's right. It just ends. Exactly. Wow. It's a very strange film. It's kind of like a psychedelic, erotic extravaganza of some sort, but it's not very extravagant at all. It's actually really pared back. And this guy is super odd. The main dude, Casper, he's just, even from the very beginning where you're watching him photograph a single orchid plant without moving it, lighting it, doing anything at all to it, but he's like sweating and taking different angles, but the same angle, just turning the camera a little bit. He's just a crazy, weird dude. And the whole film has choices like that throughout it. The whole thing is really unusual. What was your overall vibe of it, Doc?
I was very open-minded early on because I thought it had all the elements that I liked. And it's not just the sexiness, it's that sense of mystery.
We must defend ourselves here, Doc. It's not just the sexiness.
Well, it's true. And it felt like the sort of thing that you'd be trying to untangle and work out. And in a sense, you are all through. But there's never anything really to work out.
I agree. it has this promise of a deep mystery. Like you said, the guy takes a job. It is the most mysterious and frightening job interview process that you could possibly have, and would have pretty much anybody just walking away going, nah, I'm not into it. Like it turns out he's got his old mate that he used to work with, shows up at a party. He's hitting on his girlfriend hard, and in the meantime says, by the way, I think I've got a job for you. And then they go, do they just leave the party together, leave the girlfriend, go to this thing, which involves them sitting in the bushes, watching the front door of an unmarked building, and then a van sort of arrives out the front of it with this scary looking sort of like black security guy who then picks a dude up off the street, puts him in the back, almost putting a bag over his head, but not quite. You know what I mean? Like it's that mysterious. When this dude finally gets the job, it's all of that. Plus then he gets handed a weird camera that, like you said, is so like it's impossible to understand what any of this stuff is or means. And you're just kind of going for the ride, you know?
But let's stop there. Up until then, everything you've described.
Yeah.
Up until then, I'm happy enough.
Me too. Yeah.
Yeah, because, wow, what could this be? You know, what clandestine secret society is he going into? What nonsense are they getting up to?
Yes.
Why is it so secretive? My goodness, what is that camera? That looks so odd. But not really that odd, mind you. But different. Why is that why does that camera look so old-fashioned?
Yeah.
And why is it that he just has to hold it here and not actually use any of his skills as a photographer and just hold it there and perving at her? But still, it's also strange to then that, and you feel like there's something supernatural underneath it all, or
totally agree.
And it's building and building, and the look and feel of the film is odd and unsettling. So it could have got me by then.
You know what? I'm with you. I was like deeply involved in the mystery up until I think I started to get this feeling that maybe it wasn't going to go anywhere at a certain point. It's actually really hard to pinpoint the moment. Like, do you know when it was? It's probably in somewhere in the sort of
about
end
halfway.
Halfway, maybe end of the second act. You just start to lose confidence that it's going to go anywhere, and I can't even pinpoint what the thing is. I think it's actually a series of little, slightly off-putting revelations that don't give you quite what you think you're going to get.
Yeah,
that's probably what it is. Yeah,
and I put a note at 45 minutes, and it was when his mate also went there, and he said that he filmed a man, and I thought, oh wow, maybe there's something going on here where what they're filming is a representation of their desires or something a little bit freaky.
I thought the same thing.
But no, so it sort of got me back. It had almost lost me, got me back with the promise. It didn't have to be what I'd thought it was, but I thought it could be something weird. Yeah. And then it just gradually normalized the whole experience to being just a drug addict and a Princess Leia.
Yes, I think the blue orchid juice that they get out of the orchids, which, by the way, what does...
Oh, that was out of the orchids. I didn't realize.
I assumed... So this is my take on the ending. Massive spoiler alert for everybody, but your main character Casper finally gets, follows the truck, follows the trail of clues back to a place which is almost like an underground facility where they've got they're growing orchids under blue lights, and they seem to be playing to the orchids the video recordings that he's recorded of like the woman, and then they extract the juice or something, I don't know, from the orchid into little vials, and when you combine the orchid juice that was captured while watching the video and then give the video in a little Star Wars hologram and those two things, and then they vape the blue juice, then that's what creates the whole thing. That was my understanding. I could be wrong, but at that point I was like, nah.
Well, I'll tell you what. What you've just described is almost winning me back.
Oh, really?
Because that's at least... I'd missed that. I must have been, looking down at my chips or something at the time when that came on.
Okay, Well, it's easy to miss. It all happens in one little, 10-second thing.
But at least that's a connection, I suppose, between the blue juice and the Princess Leia hologram, and that connects them. Because otherwise, I was just thinking, well, what's the point? Like, it's the technology's not impressive. The hologram is not sexy.
Yeah.
And it's like, what's alluring them to even want to do this? Just put on a movie.
Yeah, exactly. Well, if the blue juice was that good, right, you could look at anything. You could actually, instead of looking at the hologram, go put on your favorite movie star on TV, have the blue juice, and next thing you're in the bedroom with them. Like, why wouldn't you just do that rather than some random model? So
yeah.
But yes, I think that was the point. That was the connection between them. I mean, I love the idea of a blue juice that you can vape and would take you into the bedroom of anyone that you saw. Like, that's that in itself is kind of cool, but it's not that.
The possible reality of that, or that as a film premise.
As a premise, I think that's cool. Possible reality, I don't know. Except the film really ends with this. Basically, he has one big trip, wakes up.
Yeah.
And then straight away he's putting another vial in. So you get this sense that the end of the film is that this guy's life is kaput, right? He's broken up with his girlfriend and he's so into this now that it's going to be hard for him to live a normal reality anymore.
Yeah. And look, if I'm going to take some positives, as a comment on drug use towards the end and how you can get hooked on this fantasy, that the drugs give you, and how the first hit is perhaps so unbelievable, but then you're destined to just get, to go nowhere on it. I thought that I took something of that out of it. And I also thought that when they got together and got that high on the blue juice, the transition from being sober to smashed off their heads was quite nicely done. Like, that's hard to get across, but one second they were completely normal, and the next they are tripping. I
mean, if we're going to talk about some more positives, all of that naked imagery and that was really sort of taking you into his mind space, I think. Like, he was being taken away to this very exotic location, very secretive, where he would basically be given a ridiculous camera and then just asked to film a very attractive naked person. And like, that was clearly just all playing with his psychology, and it was getting all into his head. And I thought that was actually, even though it was kind of maybe overplayed, it was really, really well done. Like, it was beautiful footage, very artsy. They were projecting, wallpaper style patterns onto this woman who, here's a question. Did you think that she was a transgender person when you first saw her? I had this whole crying game moment that that's where we were heading.
For a moment, not really. I thought she was probably meant to be like female, but not overtly feminine, just sexual in a nondescript way.
Because very striking looking, right? And I was wondering if they were going to play with gender in there, and it felt like it was going to go that way for a minute, but then it doesn't. Because when the other guy says he saw a man, I almost for a minute was like, oh, is it the same person and they're going to play with gender? You know what I mean? But it didn't go that way.
I would have liked them to.
I would have liked them to as well. I think that would have been really interesting.
Definitely. Well, you mentioned the scenes where they're projecting like the lights and everything on her body, and they really were quite strikingly done. It was like a full length art,
like an installation almost.
Video installation.
Yeah.
But that stuff was really good. But what did you think about in general the look of the film? Because it had some very prominent things that it came back to.
It was very confusing, the look of it. It actually had a bit of a 70s vibe or something. It was like very yellow and crunched in a way, the look of it. I couldn't quite figure out what they were doing with the cameras to get that look. It's quite a specific and almost like a difficult thing to achieve, I think. Like, you just don't see it. And later on in the film, when he goes into that underground bunker thing, like, it's blue. Really, really blue and kind of strange looking. So, you know, there was some odd grading. The whole thing had a bit of an odd feel to it, like it was from another time. What was your take?
Yeah, well, I'm sure that was the intention, and it was successful because it did. A lot of things played into the fact that it looked like it was from another time. Like, certainly the look of it, how it was lo-fi, the lighting was interesting. It was soft focus.
Yeah.
At different times, always hot and sweaty, like an uncomfortable, not modern air conditioned environment.
Absolutely.
And the technology, that also suggested that it's meant to be either timeless or, I don't know, a parallel universe or something. Because why else would you? The technology was not impressive how it looked.
That's true. It's like, it felt to me like it was filmed 10 years ago, but meant to be set in the late 70s or something. You know, like it had a really strange feel to it, which didn't bother me. I kind of liked it. I liked the aesthetic. Like if the whole film had more of a cracking pace to it and went somewhere more, you know, definitive with the whole thing, then that whole aesthetic could have been really great for it.
Yeah, that's true. I said something almost exactly the same, and that was that it looked like the film was conceived 40 years ago, and then they've only just got around to making it.
Yes.
You know, because the concept of that hologram, you know, is interesting, or would have been, but today I'd probably back that someone's done it.
You know what's really strange too is like, yeah, no, totally. You could get
there's
that
VR.
thing.
There's VR.
Yeah. That camera that they had designed, it had one of those little security cameras on the inside of it. That was the sort of ring of like, so it's weird because you're looking at it going, I know what that is. Like, I know how they've made that.
Physically how they've made
like,
that
I actually
cardboard
know
box
the
with a security
that
camera.
are in that. Yeah, that's right. But that didn't destroy it for me. It was just, you know, just some odd little details.
No, it was almost nice that it had that touch.
Yeah.
If only it had meant something.
If the story had been more concluded, or had the mystery had unraveled in a more satisfying way. Okay, one of the funniest things for me was when he's with his mate and they've got the goat. He's just come back right from his first night on the job, and he's now got to like take seriously his real job, which is to do a commercial with the goat. And what does he say? Oh, I wrote it down. It was so good. He basically goes up to the goat and he says, he gives the goat direction. He's like,
look at the camera.
I want you to look at the camera. No, and be proud of your milk. That's what it was.
Wow, that was funny.
Oh yeah, look at the camera, be awake, and be proud of your milk. Perfect direction for a goat.
And there were bits. It started with a couple of nice bits too, like when they were filming the food, like the imagery of the honey dripping and them doing the cleaning the strawberry, like that gave you a sense of what was to come thematically a little bit.
Yeah.
But it was also quite funny seeing that's what what they were spending their time doing.
Yeah, and the final image was also something that you would have seen, like what product photography would have been 30 or 40 years ago as well. That's the other thing. Like it adds to that aesthetic because nobody shoots products like that anymore.
Oh, okay. I wouldn't have even picked that.
It was just it just had like the checkered tablecloth, and, you know, it was all sort of still life lit, you know, like it was just very old fashioned.
Yeah, true. I'm sure there's something we're missing in it all. So
I hope so.
Let's give them some credit for, you know.
Look, I was pretty much entertained the whole way through. I just was like you, waiting for something more to happen. But, you know, there was at no point that I was going to switch the thing off and walk away from the mystery. I needed to know. I needed to know what happened, and I was with it.
Big time, and I give them credit for not going too long, which a lot of the films in this festival so far have done the right thing there and not given us 2.5 hour, things to sit through. There's nothing better than a sub 90-minute film.
They're actually, I'm growing such a respect for these shorter time lengths. And look, we should mention too that the festival's finished now, and we've just seen this as one of our last films in the festival. I'm so curious about how like audiences that are there have taken this whole list of films. But like we've seen quite a few that are quite short, and that's in an era now where a lot of films are over 2 hours coming out of the studio system. It's really quite nice to watch a film that's 80 minutes long. You know,
it's more than nice. It's just a thrill. I just don't want, even if it's a good film, I don't want to be there for that long. What did it remind you of? Anything at all?
Well, look, I've got it. So the camera and the way that you look through the camera, or what you see when you look through the camera, all these weird, creepy images, actually really reminded me of a video game that I played years and years ago.
I love it.
I think it was called Frame Zero. It's a Japanese ghost game that was absolutely terrifying. I think I played it for about a week straight and had the worst night's sleep of my life. Like I was having just terrible nightmares the whole time. And the whole thing is you're in this old Japanese haunted mansion, like, you know, really old, creepy one in the woods. It's half rotten. And you're walking around and the only way you can see ghosts is through this dodgy old like camera.
Oh, wow.
And so like you're just constantly doing this and it's all kind of flickery and crappy and a little like this one was. And for a little while there, I was thinking that this woman model wasn't even real because I had this game playing in my head. As soon as I saw that camera and the way it worked, I was like, oh my God, what's he in for? He's going to start, like, is this woman even real? Is this going to turn into some horrible thriller where he can only see her through the camera? And, you know, like I started going down that road.
Well, you no one could blame you because that's what virtually happened at the start when they suddenly stopped filming her and she disappeared. And the hair clip or whatever it was fell to the ground. So what was that about?
Was never explained. I know.
I thought at the time that somehow the process of filming her meant that the camera had taken in her life force or something.
Which could have been really interesting as well.
Yeah. But there she was the next time, ready for another session.
That's right. How about you? Any for you?
Mine are all anti-references. Movies that I think have explored similar things, but I dare say have done them better. Like David Lynch, Mulholland Drive, where there's that mystery at the center of it with that blue box. There's always just a sense of what does it mean? What's inside the box? How does that connect to everything? And this had the potential to be similar to that and to really have a mystery at the heart of it. And I just don't think it succeeded.
Yeah.
Whereas to my mind, David Lynch, even though he never explains anything, you never have any payoff really, but the sense of mystery is always there.
You know, you're right. He's very similar in that he's not going to explain very much to you. However, you don't feel you get to the end of the film and you just feel like you've experienced something crazy and amazing.
That's right.
You don't really feel like anything's been left out that you needed, which is, I don't know. There's some talent behind that. I don't know how that even works. It's some kind of magic.
They're in the same family, and just, you know, one's a more talented brother.
Yeah, there you go. Another one I had was Eyes Wide Shut for similar reasons, I suppose. I mean, it's the whole mystery of this kind of sex cult thing going on. And this has a lot of those similar vibes. You've got a guy who's trying to find his way into the middle of it so he can find out what it's all about. Super curious, and it just gets him in trouble.
I had Eyes Wide Shut as well.
There you go.
Yeah, and again, anti-reference, because with Eyes Wide Shut, you get it revealed, this secret society, and you're in that room and seeing all the crazy stuff that's happening and how many people are implicated by it, and it's really it's a reveal, and there was an opportunity for that same reveal in this. And when he gets up the ladder and looking through the window, finally it's all revealed, and I just wasn't taken by what was revealed to me.
You know what this film feels like it needs? Actually, now that we're talking about it, we're talking about how it's short. It actually, now that we're getting to this, it really feels like it needed a third act. Like him getting high is almost feels more like the end of a second act. That's a low point. He's uncovered most of the mystery, right? But then these guys should have rocked up with freaking guns or something to try and take the stuff back, or he should have had to do some sort of thing that like threw him right back in danger. And, you know, it just sort of feels like it's missing that finale. You know what I mean? And the finale would have given us some sort of final bit of information that we just need, that we're missing, you know?
Yeah, no,
Obviously, it's very Hollywood, but it feels like it just felt like it needed something.
No, it was spot on. That would have been one way of fixing it to me.
Yeah.
Another would have been just to make that reveal that he had. Like, he had a whole reveal moment and just make that more compelling. And then I could have bought into the fact of it, just dropping away into a drug haze.
Well, I just said Eyes Wide Shut. Was there any others that you had that you wanted to talk about?
Couple of quickies. True Detective Season 2, the one with Rachel McAdams. And from memory, I think she kind of infiltrated some secret kind of society where she was pretending to be one of the women that was being hard done by. I can't remember the details, but again, anti-reference, because I thought there might be some real form of exploitation or something that was under the surface here that would be uncovered, as was the case in that series. But again, not really.
I never saw the second season of True Detective. The first season was amazing. I saw the first episode of the second season, and it was so different in a way that I found it really off-putting, and I didn't keep watching. But maybe I should have.
No, it was really good.
Yeah?
Not flawless, but had a lot of good parts of it, and some great acting performances by Rachel McAdams, one, and Colin Farrell I thought was great too.
Yeah, right. Cool. I don't really have any others. I did note down Nightcrawler because there was a sense of the guy, the main character, Casper, just being a bit creepy and relentless in his pursuit of this thing. That reminded me a little bit of Nightcrawler, but not a lot. It was sort of a pretty weak reference, actually.
Well, most of mine have been too, and I'll throw one last week reference in.
Yeah.
And that's Under the Skin. Yeah,
what a messed up, crazy film. That's a great reference.
That's a messed up, crazy film. There really is a mood to that film, and it's this mix of sexy and unnerving, and there's a real sense of danger through the whole thing. And I feel like they're three of the elements that this film was trying for. Yeah. Definitely sexiness, definitely trying to be unnerving, and trying to have a sense of foreboding and danger in it. Yeah. And again, it didn't do badly on any of those fronts, really. It was okay. But Under the Skin kind of nailed those things.
Yeah, we get the same idea of sort of men being absorbed by this process, that you get in Under the Skin. But Under the Skin does it in such an artistic way. And I guess the naked photography in this kind of reminds me a little bit of the men sinking into the floor. Like, you've got some similarities in style there. But I agree, I think Under the Skin's ultimately a much cooler and, well-developed concept.
Great filmmaker.
Yeah. Awesome. I love that.
Cool. I think we're done with The Orchid.
Yes, indeed. And the director, which we never mentioned, is Carl Marott. I think I'm curious to see where these filmmakers go next from this. Yeah. There's clearly potential and talent there. It's just where that gets focused next will be interesting to see.
Yeah, and all of my criticisms aside for this, and there are a few, but none are terminal. It totally really has so many good parts about it, and really stands up. And it to the point that if I was in another frame of mind, it would just take maybe being on the gin instead of the vodka, or something, and
being on the weed instead of the juice.
Yes,
perhaps.
Yeah, exactly. It could be just a quite. If it had got me early, it probably could have, got my attention the whole way. Might even be worth another watch sometime.
Awesome. You can find some of that Blue Orchid juice. Might take you to another place.
Carl, if you've got a stash, send it over and we'll watch it again.
Awesome. All right, Doc, that's another episode down, another film from Austin Film Festival, and another one to go.
See you for the next one.
All right, catch ya.
Bye, folks.